It's teardown time. About time, too. Time to strip this puppy and take all the metal parts outside, stripping and painting them, and get the cabinet back up the stairs into my shed and get started. Already got some pieces in. I didn't have right angle headers, so I got some right angle headers. That's my dehumidifier in the background. Hopefully you could hear me. And then new T-molding. New leather T-molding. Tmolding.com. I'm pretty sure that's where almost everyone gets their T-molding, but right near me in Colchester, Connecticut, good place for T-molding. Cheap. I think this was 20 feet for $10 or $11 shipped. Not bad. So, I'm going to set this up on a tripod and we're going to start tearing this apart. Alright, so the way I'm going to do this is, it might be a little anal and you might laugh at me or call me an idiot, but every piece I take off I'm going to use painter's tape and a Sharpie. And I'm going to label each piece where they go, because sometimes some of these brackets look a little similar. I forget which one is which, and generally speaking it just starts to cause all kinds of confusion on my part. What can I say? I'm not very smart. So here we go. Let's get this stuff out of the way. There we go, there we go. Great. These top brackets, these are regular screws. Maybe they were security screws at one time, I don't know. Take this and we're going to label it. And we should actually get a bag. I have little bags that I could use to label my parts. I should probably do that too. I use these little guys I get from Uline. They work great. I label them. Top marquee screws. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these screws are probably somewhat interchangeable with other parts of the cabinet, but why not? Because what we're going to do, we're going to paint this stuff too. Make it look nicey nice, right? Let's see if we can pop this guy free. Ah, it's wedged in there. All right. So let's do this first then, shall we? So I'm guessing these were security screws at one time, and they just got tired of having to find a security bit or something. They just replaced them with regular black screws. Because all the ones I've ever seen have been security screws. Here comes this. I should get my little skill screwdriver, like John has from John's Arcade. Ah, all right. Well, that's one reason that I wasn't lighting up so good, is because there's only 3 bulbs in it. I wonder if these other 2 sockets work. Here's our new old stock marquee, or not a new old stock. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Here's our original marquee. It actually doesn't look too bad. If you look at it, it does feel very chalky on the back. Like kind of worn out. So, not a total loss. We'll put this aside. And we'll label our bracket here. I'm curious to see if this spatter paint is going to come off, or how hard it's going to come off. Bottom marquee. There we go. Our bag bottom marquee screws. There we go. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this is all going to come out. Ugh, tastes gross. I just got some marker in my mouth and I was holding the cap. Ugh. Good old Sharpie. I didn't have any. These are, if you don't know, these are actually 12-volt bulbs. These aren't regular 555s. I think there's like 161s or 192s or something like that. I forget. I have some. I checked. I just can't remember the number off the top of my head. 1, 2, 3. Here's our speaker panel, or our light panel with our speaker under there. I don't know if we're gonna take this. We probably should take this off and check out the speaker. Speaker, it sounds fine though, so I'm not too worried about it. But for the sake of completion, we should probably take that off when we're gonna paint this and sand it down and everything. Those are carriage bolts that I got to get from the other side. Okay, you got to do that from the back. And let's get this control panel off, shall we? The nice thing about these two, I should probably pan you down, right, so you can see what I'm doing. The nice thing about these two is a lot, if not all, these games have a harness for the control panel. If I can get it off. I tore the crap out of my index finger yesterday, so I'm trying not to put too much pressure on that. Oh, I'm getting so weak. I see I'm not the only one who's had trouble with this, because someone stuck a screwdriver in between there and twisted it to get it apart. So, which I might have to do the same thing, because that's not coming off. There we go. Give us some leverage here. Jeez, that's stuck on. Oh, here it comes. Oh, jeez, there we go. All right. Easy enough. This guy should come free. And voila. We have our control panel. Let's take a look at the back there. Doesn't seem to be too bad. A little rusty like all these are. A couple of cobwebs, but everything looks pretty original. Everything routed originally, has the original wire stays, wire keepers, whatever you want to call them, over there in the corner. So that shouldn't be too bad. Put that aside. And we got wing nuts under here. Okay, well, at least one of them's a wing nut. I guess the other wing nuts disappeared at some point. Man, I'm a righty. Not being able to use that finger, really not fun. All right, that's not working. So, yeah, these are all different screws too. Someone's been in here. Someone's obviously taken this off to do this to it. So, I am not going to bore you with me struggling to get this thing off. We'll cut out. I'll take this off and we'll come back. How about that? All right. So my camera work wasn't very good in that last part. I don't want you to see me see the back of my head as I'm doing stuff. That's not what I want. So I went ahead and I did a couple things. I took apart this light panel. Came right off. That connector just kind of popped out on its own there. Focus. Kind of popped out on its own. So that was easy. That just came out. So I got the light panel. Easy enough. The speaker's been removed before, obviously, because of when they painted it the first time. So that speaker just had wire nuts on it. So I just labeled, since both of these wires are the same color, I just labeled one side white, one side black. I had mixed it up originally and then I corrected my work. That's why you see the white scribbled out in the black, so I know which wire goes to which when I wire it back on. I took off our speaker grill right there. Nicely spatter painted speaker grill, so we're going to strip that down. You can see the original black paint on the back of it. Strip that down, we're going to repaint that. And here's where we're at. So far, so good. A little dusty. We'll wipe all this stuff out before we paint it. There are our speaker wires. There is the switch that turns the game on and off, obviously, and the wires running to that. Make sure those are nice and tight. And then a little bit later on, I will work on getting this bezel retainer out. Again, you don't want to see me. You don't want to see the back of my head stuck in there as I'm trying to fiddle with it. And it's dinner time anyway, so we'll be back. Alright, so geez, it's a good thing that I did shut this down and go get some dinner, because the bolt that they used to hold that lower bezel bracket in was that big, and the threads are all stripped down here, so I had a hell of a time. I had to go in there with a ratcheting box end wrench instead of just loosening it up with some channel locks or something, or vice grips. And I had to thread this stupid little thing, which is all mauled. Hopefully I'm in the frame. I had to thread this stupid little thing all down this damn bolt to get the lower bracket off, the bezel, lower bezel holder, whatever you want to call it. What a pain in the neck. We won't be using that bolt. I'll put it with here so we know we had 3 bolts, but I won't be using that again. Here it is. Here is our lower bracket, or I can't talk. Our bezel lower retainer bracket. Again, spatter painted. It's in pretty good shape. A little bit of rust here and there. We could sand that off. That's not a big deal. So let's go back over here. Coming apart. Here's this interesting bezel. Let's take a look at this, because I'm interested to see. Hopefully that light's not too annoying for you. But here is plexi bezel. Move you back a little bit. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You see, somebody put a nice little electrical tape border around here. That's cute. And oh, I see what they did. So this is like a homemade bezel. Oh, look at that. Okay, that's actually not the best, but it's actually pretty neat. So what somebody did here is, it looks like they took 2 pieces they printed out the color parts, right? They printed out the colored bezel, the colored parts of the bezel. They cut around it, and I'm looking at my camera as I point this to you. You can see the Sharpie marks where they drew. They cut around it, and then they sandwiched it in between 2 pieces of plexi. That is, I'm guessing they did this before, you know, all the good reproductions that are out there now. But that's actually, it's actually not a bad idea. Somebody was actually kind of using their head, and it didn't come out all that bad, actually. That's not so bad. I mean, I think knowing what I know now, because it was, what's this? Chromalin? Control proof. So they printed it on chromalin paper. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. I don't. So knowing that what I know now, though, is I think I will be going to This Old Game, and I will be buying a new bezel, because this isn't bad, but I'd rather have a new bezel. And you know what? You can see I didn't notice it before, but knowing what I know now, you can see that this border under here. Hopefully, I'm in the frame. I am. This border under here, you can see how it's uneven and cut. But that's actually, I'm impressed. Somebody put some thought into that and took some time to do that. So there you go. There's our mystery bezel. We'll be getting a This Old Game one. So all right. Well, here's our little plastic shroud that is present on so many of these games. It's looks like it's taped in there. Just try not to crack that. We taped or we stapled? We are taped, or kind of glued in there. Let's break our glue. There we go. It's our plastic monitor shroud, I guess is the better way to call it. And alright, I have something to do, so I'm going to pause this here, and we'll be back a little later. So while taking out the board, taking a look at where they soldered these wires directly to the back of the board, with the header pins are soldered to the board. You can see right there. This thing, I don't think this thing has ever been out of this game, only because, man, was it stuck in there. I had to rip this thing out of those brackets. A lot of these old Midway games, they have a top plastic bracket. You unscrew, that frees up the game, and then there's usually a side bracket. This is not focusing very well. There's a top bracket you take out, there's a side bracket, and a bottom bracket. And you just slide it out. This thing was stuck in there. So I don't know if this has ever been out. Taking a look at the back of the board, too, you can see right here. This is all burnt up here. I don't know if someone's worked on this or not, but those little resistors, I'm guessing they're resistors, whatever the hell they are. Man, those things got hot. Those got hot. You can see. So those are going to get replaced. I'll look at the schematics and replace something. You know, actually, I take that back. It does look like this has been out, because the more I'm looking at some of this solder work. And it doesn't look like it was done very well in some places. Yeah, it's kind of sloppy. So we're going to redo all that. We'll do a section, a video on the board repair. Ugh. So I'm just going to cut these. I'm not going to bother trying to solder them out. I took a picture of where they go, and I know where they go based on the wiring schematics, the wiring diagram, so I'm not too worried about misplacing that or forgetting where they go. So I'm just going to cut these out just so I can get this board out of here. Alright, so I went ahead and did a whole bunch of stuff this morning. I didn't have my phone plugged in overnight. I thought I plugged it in, but it wasn't in all the way and it didn't charge. And since my phone is my main camera, I couldn't film a bunch of stuff. Not that you probably want to see me do any of this nonsense anyway, but... So, taking it from the top, as you can see up here, monitor is out. Monitor is sitting there. That'll get kind of a clean. I was thinking about doing a cap kit, but it actually doesn't look all that bad in there. And that neck board, the fact that it's split kind of worries me. I don't know if that's going to be a pain to get apart, so... I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet. That's still up in the air, but I will give it a clean. Hose, spray it down, hose it off a little bit. Going around the front. Oh, you can just see exactly just how wet it got in this corner here, where it's really swollen. You can see that front piece, how big it is. Here's how big it's supposed to be. That's how big it is. It even got pretty swollen on this corner over here too. However, you know, I just can't. I don't know. Redoing that, maybe I will. Maybe I'll just take all the laminate off, sand it down, and I'll cut a piece to do this. I'm just nervous about it. Probably simple for some people, but maybe not for me. So we'll figure out what we're doing with that. I mean, looking at it, doesn't look bad. Yeah, I know it's not a total restore if I don't do it. We'll see. But all the hardware back here was rusty. And I was trying to get the coin door bezel off. I guess the coin door bezel, the coin door surround. All the hardware is rusty for that. I'm going to have to replace that. But that was kind of a pain in the ass to get out. On the other side is where I've been doing most of the work. As you can see, the board is out. Right there. Before you saw the power supply, how that's going to need a little bit of work. But this board seems to be okay. I mean, it's working. It's got new ROMs in it. Cute little Rally X stickers on the ROMs. I don't know if you can see that. You can't see them. But the main stuff's been going on back here. I really wanted to get that that whole bottom. Oh, my camera's not focusing very well today. There we go. I really wanted to get that big ass block out. Number one, so I can clean this thing real good. Number two, so I could redo those fuse holders. And number three, so make it lighter to get up those stairs and outside. So I took it out. I remember when John did his Pac-Man on John's Arcade, he said, It was kind of tough to take out. It really wasn't all that tough. I did have to clip a couple wires. This yellow wire here goes right to the harness. I'll just put a butt splice connector on that. I'll put it back in. Spade connector, not butt splice. A spade connector, that way it can always be removed for service again. And down here, you can see where those, I clipped the wires off. That's just the ground. Comes out of the harness, dips in there, goes to ground, and then continues into the rest of the harness. It's around here somewhere, I don't know. But it's part of the harness. This part with all the burns on it, as I suspected, that's where the power comes in. So we'll replace that. We'll figure out all these wires down here. This ground guy, and we'll figure him out too. This is the harness that goes to the game PCB. We'll take a look at, and we'll go through this kind of stuff. You know, that's a mess. This all needs to be redone and figure out these splices when the time comes. But the game harness is actually separate, obviously. That's the part that goes to the coin door and everything, as you would imagine, into the control panel, into the speakers up here. The other harness is kind of like the power harness, I guess we could say, which makes sense. That went to the interlock switch, which those connectors didn't want to come off. And I didn't want to break the tabs in the back of the switch, so I just took the whole plate out. It was 2 screws. It wasn't that hard. I want to put a new line cord on here anyway too, so it just made sense to take this thing out. Made it a lot easier. I took the main PCB holder out right there. That was 4 screws. That wasn't so hard. So just a lot of little things. Just the sum, the parts are a little bit annoying, but the sum of it isn't so bad. There you can see the 2 wires. They just looped in, hit ground, and went back into the harness. I'll splice them together, and I'll hook that back up to ground. There's our little yellow wire that came off the transformer. I'm pretty sure that's just coin door lights. I'm pretty sure the yellow wire with the 12-volt coin door lights. Or, I'm sorry, no, this doesn't have coin door lights. What am I talking about? Coin counter. I'm pretty sure it's just for the coin counter. So, I mean, I'll put it back to the way it was, but it's not the end of the world. And then this little resistor bank here. That was just 4 screws. I popped that out because obviously there was no way to get that disconnected. So, but what I'm rewarded with for a little bit extra work is this nice light cabinet that I can probably carry or drag up the stairs on my own without a hand truck. That won't be that hard. Or maybe I will use a hand truck just for the simplicity's sake. But next time you see this thing's going to be in the shed getting cleaned up. I think the first thing we're going to be doing is taking the rest of this vinyl off and starting some sanding, maybe a little wood hardener in those spots that are a little soft, and then we'll sand this stuff up and start some Bondo work on the bottom a little bit too, so I can replace that blown out leg leveler. I think you could see it in here, right there. I don't know what the hell that is. Right there. The wood over there on the bottom is all chewed up, so that leg leveler just kind of disappeared. So, we'll get to all that. For now, that's about it. When you see us again, we'll be in the shed, like I said. So, we'll try to do that. We'll try to start that stuff up this weekend. Today's Saturday morning. So, we'll start that up, and hopefully we can have this thing done within a week or two, because I have more projects coming. So, stay tuned for that. At any rate, thanks for watching. See you soon.